Okay, good morning. Let's get this show on the road. All right. So the question is, new highs coming, or is this going to be a shortable rally? I guess we're really going to have to see. Right now, things are up. So as they come up into resistance on the hourly chart, that's where we're going to look. There's an appropriate pattern to put on a short and see what kind of retester or further down we go. So we'll see. Starting with SPX, since it's Wednesday, I see Paul already posted there for a possible condor, which I think this could be a perfect day for that if the premiums are there. Let me see what he's got here. 31, 25, 35 and 30, 75, 65. And let's see, 31, 31, 25, 25. And we'll see where the futures are at here. But so theoretically, that could be okay. We'll see this because this unfilled gap and this little congestion area right there on the hourly chart is where sellers should want to show up and hold that area. Ideally, it wouldn't even get up quite to there, make a double top, M type of a top. Prior to that, we'll look at the futures and see where they're at relative to this congestion area on them. And so down below, 3075, 3075. Again, I'll have to see how far it gets. It could be okay, 75.35. You know, the ideal would be if we could get it down below here and up above here, if that was possible. But again, we'll take a look at that. So where are things at here? Let's start with the spiders. And we can see here, I guess that's a bad tick. So 311, 311, 311. Coming into the gap fill. So right here where sellers should show up. And as we can see here on the 15-minute chart, again, that looks like a bad tick there. So far, things are holding up, but they're creating 3103. Let me go back and look for that then. 3103. Well, that's okay. So let's give it 5 minutes, maybe 15 minutes or so, and see if it jiggles around. So going back to the spiders, we see that it's building a base here, which is good. Meaning, well, if it breaks out above the highs, does it keep pushing toward, 312-ish, where there's going to be more sellers, or does it poke up and if it immediately comes back in and we get a breakout failure, that would be a go signal with a break under a little, like a prior bar's low. So let's see if we get a breakout failure. That would be confirmation of what we want to see based on the higher time frame. That would hold above this level here, right? And then, of course, if it goes down, we'll have to assess that at the time. But if it is going down, let's wait a little while to put on the put side, because we'll get better premiums if it can go down a bit. So we'll assess that. All right, spiders. We got them up there, spiders. Let's go to the Qs. And again, we got a bad tick here. Let's look at, I think we could look at this one. My memory serves me correctly. Yeah. All right. I don't have any lines on there, but so those are the leveraged ones. All right. So they are at, right, same kind of a base there. We'll see if it keeps going or breakout failure. It keeps going, right? It's just below 75. It's into this area here. So this is where we want to see sellers show up here. They get it through here and they hold it and opens up the door into the void. Now, it would seem incredible that it could retrace this today, but crazier things have happened. Remember, this is the Mr. Schizophrenic market. It's amazing, somewhat amazing that it came back as far as it did yesterday. And we were talking in the room a little bit. I think there's David that threw out the idea of a gap fill. And I said, well, I've seen such things happen before where I thought it'd be impossible to happen. It didn't happen yesterday, but it was a decent comeback. Anyway, we have a broken trend here under major support. It was pushing, was in an uptrend. It violated the major support, the low prior to the higher high. So we know it's no longer in an uptrend. And theoretically, it could now, what it should do, right? As a correction starts, it should somewhere, I guess in this area here, come up, make a lower high, and it's either going to double bottom here, and we'll look at the internals when they're at the appropriate time to see if that's a probability, and I would have no problem at all if it poked under the low and sprung back up again. That's one of my favorite patterns, where it just breaks through some support, tickles underneath it, and then springs right back up again. And that's what I was talking about. I can't do it. I gotta go back here. Let's just go to the spotlight. Here would be if it broke out and came right back in again. So those little shocks or failure patterns really increase the odds of calling a turning point versus just your normal kind of like what's happening here. And this is a little breakout failure right there. So there's some shock element to it, but somewhat less so because it was already in an uptrend where it was going up multiple bars in a row and it broke out. So a breakout failure in this scenario is not too much of a surprise. Okay. Whereas this, where it's trending up and you just see wide range bar and it's consolidating at the high of the wide range bar and it breaks out and it fails, that is a good shock. But if you're just looking at this time frame, it could be a shock to you. But if you're looking at the big picture here, it's more of the expected, right? Correct. This is no longer in an uptrend, so we call it a sideways trend, right? Until the downtrend is established. But Tony, the other rule that's in MTS and the swing course is that if it violates two prior swing lows on one swoop, we call it a downtrend. That didn't happen here. It just went through one. So just remember that, to go through two prior swing lows on one drop, that's a nasty drop because you violated two significant reference points of support. So we don't have that here. We just got a broken uptrend, but we got an uptrend on the weekly. So our intermediate term bias is that, yes, this is trouble. Definitely could be a shortable event. And it also should then at some point establish a buy setup on the daily time frame that would be in alignment with this weekly uptrend as well as the monthly uptrend. I don't know that it's exaggerated, Paul. I honestly don't look at it that way, and I could be wrong that it's a triple thing because I just look at the chart, and the chart it's the same chart, right? So yeah, it's leveraged, but if we look at the ES versus the SPY or SPY versus SSO, so there's leverage there, but we still read the charts the same way. With the futures, we can read a clean 24-hour chart, so we don't see the gap as we do here. So when we go to the ES, let's just clear up the lines there. Hold on. We don't see the gap because of the overnight trading. And so now we get a clear reference point of resistance there, the consolidation and the break and the recovery. And now it's coming up to resistance within this downtrend. So this is where, right, the theory is that in this area, that's where the seller should be. And it should try and roll back over again. Now, I do have respect for this wide range bar coming off of the low. It is pre-market, right? It was 4 o'clock in the morning, but you can see the little breakdown failure that tells me that shorts got caught, right? And it was a shortable setup, not the best of the best, but still, it went sideways for a while. It looked like it could have retested the low or made a new low, and the shorts covered and it drove it back up again. So now this is where the heavy lifting starts really for longs. So, and we got this impeachment BS that's going to be going on here. And when it was happening, a couple of weeks ago before the holiday, things were kind of dead, as that was going on. So the extent of this pullback here, and we've got this reversal here at the moment. If this could spend another day here, right? This day is just beginning, but if Thursday could spend another day here without breaking lower, I would go long this intraday for sure, because then you're going to be building up a nice base here. You've got 3 days of consolidating. Now, I always like to throw out a few different scenarios. So what would be the bearish scenario here? Well, it rallies, right? It rallies up here and takes out this high. But by the end of the day, it's red. And if it does that, I'm trying to draw this here with this box thing, then we'll look for a measured move lower. So if this could turn into a shock bar by the end of the day, or not so much a shock, a continuation pattern, right? So continuation patterns have their highest probability of following through at the beginning of a move. So if we were to get, that's a pretty bad drawing that I did there, but anyway, if we were to get this as a bearish bar, or if it happens tomorrow, then we look for lower prices, right? If we get 2 green days over the next 2 days, well, that should support a move back up again. So we'll see. And it's not out of sync with the higher time frame, because all of that could just be that we're in for some consolidation for a couple of weeks on the weekly. So this is the beginning of a turn. This has violated the trend. This has not. The monthly has not. So we're kind of in limbo here at this possible turning point. It's not an easy place until we actually get more information here over the next day or two. All right, let's continue. Clear that up. Go back here. And Qs, same story, right? Each morning we pretty much find the same or similar patterns across the board there. Broken trend, right? Pretty much same hourly trend, breakdown here, pop back up. It's a little closer to resistance, so a little bit more strength. Below yesterday's low, just an inside day to this extent. And same story on the weekly. YM, and I've got this boxed off here as the 20 MA as a reference point. It's still well below. It's in the bottom half of yesterday's range, which was pretty big. It was bigger on the Dow. It came down to our support. And now you can see this little congestion right there, those overlapping opens and closes. It's going to be a little base on the 15-minute, right here. That little congestion area there would be our focal point if it does pop up here at the open, that this is where the sellers should want to show up there. Another concept, right there. And we have the Russell, which not as damaged. It didn't violate the uptrend, right? This was the laggard and it took off. The depth of retracement here is pretty deep, but coming back up, look at where it's at already. But, this is, again, the heavy lifting. So can this become, at the end of the week, Friday at the end, can it be a bottoming tail bar? Or is it a big red bar? We've still got a whole lot of time to go to develop that bar. But, if this results in some chop over the next several days and holds this level, well, it just could be one of those other situations that we've seen over the last year or so in these markets where things, just kind of rip to the downside and recover in a relatively short time. Talking heads projecting 1330 on SPX. Then the next bounce. Well, maybe they're right. You know, everybody's got their predictions, you know, about what's going on. I think, you know, that you have to respect the amount of recovery that there actually did happen yesterday. It's still got this unfilled gap. And look, whoever wants to short isn't going to be so anxious to do it here. You know, intraday traders will give it a shot, but, you know, anybody that wants to put on a decent position and looking to maybe add, you know, if it pokes a bit higher, I mean, I think this would be the area that they want to do it. So, you know, let's just see how it unfolds and not get caught up in everybody's proprietary numbers or whatever they might think. You could see I've got a line down here at this prior swing low. So anywhere in this area, if we were to get that measured move that I talked about, that's likely where it would come down to, into that area. Right. All right. And we looked at the Russell. Oil is bouncing here a little bit. Wow, actually pretty impressive to come back after this nasty day. And that's kind of the MO of this market over the last year or so, of these amazingly bearish bars and recovery. I mean, this one here recovered on the next day, and the depth of retracement here, man, what brought it down, and then it's coming right back up again. That's a crazy kind of a pattern, right? Internals, I think I have a chart of them here. Here we go. So sentiment, dead neutral, right? We really do need further downside. Yeah, it's not going to get down to a bullish level unless we get down there. Breadth being at a bullish extreme is nothing until we get sentiment in agreement with it. And these longer term ones over here, you know, volume's got room to go, and breadth also has room to go. So if the 30-30 level was to be tested down there, that could put all of this in alignment for a nice rally into new year and maybe beyond. So that's why we keep an eye on this. Kind of, you know, we all can look at different levels and what's happening and reversals and such, but when our internals line up with trends and support and resistance multiple time frame analysis, it's a fantastic setup. So we'll keep an eye on it, and we'll see. You know, yesterday the put call ratio was relatively high. I think in the middle of the day it had reached above 1.3. The markets went a bit further down, and then they began to stabilize. So we'll keep an eye on that. Breadth wasn't so extreme yesterday, but that was at the end of the day there. So, you know, it was lower than this intraday, but it didn't get down to like a minus 2,000 or so even intraday. So we'll keep an eye on this. And bonds are down here a little bit. They had a great day yesterday, up in resistance, backing off. Gold, right, holding up here at resistance, looking pretty good. W bottom here. Let's see how it deals with this congestion. And silver, pretty much the same, a little bit weaker. And just looking at, yep, transports took it on the chin yesterday. And now, who knows? We'll keep an eye on these to see if they hold this swing low, or whether, you know, they're headed, you know, back down to the bottom of the range. Hopefully not, because if that happens, it's not going to be good for the market, but we'll see what happens with that. So that's all that. I'm a little late there. Sorry about that, Dan. All yours. And someone is asking about MKC for a put spread next week, Dan.
Yeah, no worries. I'm just looking at your IYT here, and we actually had a call spread on this day that it gapped down, and this stupid thing on the bounce stopped to sell. That's disappointing. But another thing I was thinking, listening to your market internals, I think we need to do a MT live on that. You know, we have done them in the past, but I'm talking about a very specific one about just trading those black and white extremes when the internals line up, even if it only happens once a quarter, and then we can, you know, because that won't take the whole hour, and then talk about the ones just doing them for a swing trade, like you said, when they get extended into the close, whatever. But I mean, somebody who's retired and doesn't only wants to trade a few times a year, that's what we would tell them. When these line up, here's what you do. And it's very clear.
Well, they could subscribe to the advisory letter and get a report on them on a weekly basis.
Well, they can do that too. All right, MKC, you said?
Yes, they asked about MKC as a put spread for next week.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. You know, go through the rest of the checklist, which is liquid spreads, good, whatever your strike is for, you know, just do them under here. I think the 168 is fine. And make sure it's adequate juice with no pending news. Looks great. I posted this ILMN that Alex gave us yesterday. Even though it is up multiple bars, it's rested. And then the something bar that I call it was yesterday. A gap reversal, engulfing, closing to new highs, price void weekly. This looks fantastic. All of our opens are fine. Let me just show you a few from yesterday that are on our long list. DE, I just noticed on the ticker and I pulled it up. Not a swing pattern at all, but little bottoming tail here on the 200. This could be maybe 30-minute high and put spread for Friday. Alex is shorting Apple. Yeah, I remember it was a double top. That's a gap that set up a double top yesterday, an M pattern. From yesterday, we had Limo Echo was on our gap list, and it was sloppy in the morning, so I never got us an entry. But I said yesterday into the close, this would be an ideal 1, 2, 3. It's at this prior resistance, but that's a powerful bar on volume. 1, 2, 3 would be ideal. Target 16, 18 on the weekly. PSA, somebody was saying, is this a triple bottom? I said no, but let's see what happens. I need a something to tell me it's going to hold. Greg's Coffee Shop, Lima Kilo, had a nice buy setup, engulfing bar, but now it's gapping up, so messing up our entry. Calder has earnings tomorrow, but as a day trade, this looks good. SPB over the high, I like that. Sierra Alpha put spread, I doubt there's going to be anything there, but that's a bottoming pattern. Let's continue over here. Pen, we're actually long Pen as a core trade, this 1, 2, 3 breakout. And I like, again, the gap reversal. See, that's why candlesticks are so good. See, the opening price is the bottom of the real body. So it was a bearish gap that closed an engulfing bar with a price void. So that actually you can add over the highs. It looks good. I'll put it in the window. INST, it was kind of a bull flag here, but now gapping down to 48, it's getting whacked. Nothing to do with it here. Arrow 62.50, it's a bearish gap, but no great setup. RVNC 17 bucks, bearish gap, but no good setup. TECL 204, bullish gap, but right to gap fill, no setup. Deer, I mentioned, put spread maybe. RO, we just looked at. Omer 1530. So this is a gap breakout. So it's a bullish gap, but there's no great price void. And pre-market, it's a mess. This is a penny stock toy. Looks like it's getting pumped here. No interest. Zulu Sierra. 48.85 bearish gap, and that's a bearish pre-market. This would be a bear call spread candidate over yesterday's high. Workday 165 bearish gap, but no great pattern. Microchip 96. Whoa, that's a bullish. You know, it's bullish because it's exceeding the gap. And it's bullish pre-market. That's worthy of a watch. I'll put him here in the middle. Maybe 30-minute high directional, but also a put spread. I think it was earnings, so therefore the volatility should be higher. Microchip is, I'm sorry, Marvel. It's just a big junk. Hey, Richard, good morning. Your drop down, please. But it's excessive. First, then that would be beautiful. Look at the weekly has room to 70, and that's, you know, where it's gapping to right now. So AVAV 67 bucks. Bullish gap. We'll watch that on a pullback. A here. I don't know where I found this, but it's a buy setup into a WRB. I like those. You know, V top. So we'll keep an eye on that. 422 bearish gap, but I don't trade those little stocks. G triple I 26 bucks. All right, gapping down here. The market opened even though my bell didn't go off. Bearish gap, but nothing to do. Campbell's soup. Big old sideways trading range, nothing to do. KOLT, garbage, COD. COD, wow, what a nice gap the other day. It's extended, but maybe a day trade setup. Cream had earnings, gap down, no pattern. V-Ray, that's, you know, strong, but no pattern. SPB, I mentioned this over the high. This was a bio stock somebody mentioned yesterday, but it's strong. PSA, we mentioned. ILMN over the high, looks good. Coffee shops coming in. LE, I still like. Piton, we need a pullback. The old Peloton. Burl, I'm still watching. Wide range igniting breakout. Watching that for a put spread and a directional. Someone's asking about Pepsi put spread. No. That's a big mess. Yeah, it's just a mess. And you know, I know Pepsi, you just aren't going to get a lot of juice for that. You know, compare that to things that are decisively breaking out with look to the left, with no football players to the left and support below. Like here, well, MKC is not one of those, but ILMN,